Yes, I'm being loose here and painterly, but notice I'm staying within some boundaries.
You're okay if I post this on YouTube and send a link to the class?
Sure. You might be disappointed in the end. Don't make me look bad, dude. The point is to get some ground covered and create a basis from which to work. One of the biggest problems you're going to run into is nitpicking, worrying about an eyeball, and you haven't even set all the values in place, for the overall form. Now, if this was a job where somebody was paying me thousands of dollars, I might not be quite so aggressive. I'd be a little more careful as I went, because I might not have the time to fix things. But in general, this is my approach. I do not get too hung up too early.
And by doing washes, I've never done a wash myself, but at what phase do you typically do that?
I'm doing it from the very beginning. I go back and forth constantly. I start off fairly thin. I'll bring in some of my other paintings next week, but I get in there and start noodling at a certain point and do little strokes and everything. Part of the trouble with if you paint very thickly and sort of the finish right off the bat, everything has to be the right value. You have to make the edges blend perfectly first, not necessarily the first time. With acrylic, you usually need a couple of layers.
Yeah.
You put down kind of a base coat, and then you start building on top. But you're moving across the painting very methodically. If you're very good at planning, and you can do a very finished value study, and you know exactly what the values need to be, that works better. It's a little tougher if you're not as experienced, you're not quite sure where you're going. So I just like the leeway this gives me. If I build it up a little looser, I can tighten up in some areas, leave other areas loose. And at this point in my career, although I like to do tight finished paintings, I like to have the leeway to let marks and stuff show as well. I just don't want it to be too finished. Or I don't want to say too finished. I don't want it to be too uptight looking in the end. Although you probably wouldn't say that when you see my finished work. I at least want there to be some obvious marks, that suggest I'm an artist as opposed to just taking a photo. For design's sake, I'm just going to put some stuff in the background. I'm thinking more